Hello friends, welcome to Alchem IAS. This is Dr. Rajesh Kumar Mahon again presenting the today's 13th May newspaper in our Indian Express Demystified series. This is the detail about me. I have done MBBS from Government Medical College. I have worked as AMO. This is my 5th attempt. So let's start with today's newspaper. So vaccine inequity is deepening in young. So Indian Express, it has found out that 7 states are right now vaccinating 85% of the total vaccines that have been delivered. Rather, 7 states of concern which have high caseload, they have just vaccinated 85%. So why this is happening? In order to know this we should know about the vaccine policy. We have something called 50-50 formula. So 50% is taken by central government of all the vaccine available, and 50% is available in the open market, from where the state governments and the private hospitals can take the vaccine. So right now what is happening is that central government is using 3 criteria in order to allocate the vaccine to the various states in order to vaccinate frontline workers and those with more than 45 years of age. So these 3 criteria include: first is the caseload, or what we call extent of infection. Second is that performance, how nicely the state is doing with supply and logistics. Third is the wastage. Those states with less wastage are given preference. So this criteria, extent of infection, is there because of that there is certain equity in distribution of the central government. However, there is no such criteria in case of those from 18 to 44 years of age. And in fact this is the major reason because of which the inequity in vaccine administration is happening. There is no criteria where extent of infection is taken into account while giving these vaccines to the state government. In fact, state governments, it has generally been found that those state governments where the case load is high are having very low financial might and bargaining capacity to get the vaccines from the vaccine producing companies. So with this article comes to end, and let's go to the next article. This is about foreign aid. So here Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant is telling about how the foreign aid is being utilized in the country, how much it has been utilized, what are the various routes through which utilization is happening. So with regard to foreign aid, we should know that since Dr. Manmohan Singh, India had a policy that India would not accept foreign aid. In fact, during Kerala floods, foreign aid was not accepted from UAE. However, this policy was changed after 16 years, I think, recently, because of the second COVID wave and the urgent need of medical supplies. So right now there are 3 routes through which foreign aid is allocated in our country. First is government to government. So second is private to government, and third is to direct donations to the COVID patients. So how the foreign aid through government to government is coming. So if say US is supplying aid to India through a government to government mechanism, Indian Red Cross Society will take the consignment, then it will go to Ministry of External Affairs, and from there Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which will allocate to the various states, their state government, this aid that has come based on the need of those states. Next aspect is the private to government mechanism. Here we have COVAID platform that has been developed by Niti Aayog, and it is being used to allocate the aid to Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which further allocates the state government. Third aspect is donations are being given directly to civil society organization, state governments, government, these patients. So for this, a nodal officer has been appointed in order to streamline all the procedures related to it. As a matter of policy, it has been now said that the custom duties have been waived on these imports. So there were concerns in various media outlets that whatever foreign aid that is coming to India is not being utilized. So in response to that, Niti Aayog CEO is saying that 95% of the aid which has come has reached the intended beneficiaries. So with this article comes to an end. Now let's move on to the next idea. This is an editorial in Indian Express about the Facebook plans to come up with Instagram, which would be there for children less than 13 years of age. So what is happening is that right now Instagram can be used only by those people who are more than 13 years of age. And Facebook is planning to come up with a new type of Instagram which would be available for children who are less than 13 years old. So editorial is saying that this should not be a place for kids, because kids are vulnerable in groups on social media platform. In fact, there are concerns that there are fear of strangers and entering into these Instagrams, which are in fact not children, not kids, but adults. Second aspect is there is a potential of abuse. Third aspect is that even the mental health of those who engage in who are involved in on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, so their mental health deteriorates. So that is more acute with regard to children. So rather than coming out with Instagram for kids, we should have a policy, and these companies should follow a policy that these kids should be allowed to develop in a better parenting method, and Instagram these companies should not see kids as potential consumers in the future and use for their profit motive. So with this editorial discussion is complete. Now next is power play. This editorial discusses the unfolding crisis, or what we call uncertainty, in our neighborhood country Nepal. So right now there is a political crisis. What is the political crisis right now is that Nepal's Prime Minister lost vote of lost the vote of so no confidence motion was passed against him, and it cleared the parliament. Second aspect is there is a rise in COVID cases. So some people say it is on account of the porous border between India and Nepal. Third is that Nepal's health infrastructure is also in dilapidated conditions at present. So all these are producing crisis in our neighboring Nepal. So how should India respond? First is that India should respond in a way that it should not interfere in domestic matters. Not only it should not interfere in the domestic matter, it should be seen not to interfere there. Third aspect, this is because the economic blockade that we did over the Madhesi issue some years back, it had bad optics, and it was not taken in a good spirit by the leaders in Nepal, resulting in various new issues cropping up between India and Nepal. Third aspect is that India should first focus on its own domestic issue of managing the second wave. So with this editorial comes to an end. Now next is this: inaction is expensive. This is a very nice and informative article of Vivek Debroy. So what he's telling, that he's saying that in case of darkness, it brings the worst among the people. So this is with reference to how during this second wave of pandemic we are seeing hoarding, black marketing, essential medical supplies is there. So now this is not a problem that is related to pandemic as such, but the problem has more systemic flaws with regard to the supply of medical supplies. So first of all, what is the institutional architecture we are having in order to deal with these fake drugs, spurious drugs. So first of all, we have something called Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So this act is a very comprehensive act. It in fact gives teeth to these inspectors to test these medicines in the market, impose penalties. So so this enabling act is there. However, this act is not being implemented properly. Implementation is not proper. This is on account of very less number of testing labs we have. Second is that there is a testing labs are there. The capacity of drug inspectors is limited, and there is no certainty of punishment, so which can act as a deterrent. In fact, it is generally said that courts have said that police cannot register a case against this, rather it should be the inspector. So it is a jurisdiction, drug inspectors that should register the case. So the jurisdictional issue is dealing the punishment in these cases. So this is the problem. What the government is doing, government is doing is the CDSCO is saying that it is with the help of WHO, new testing labs are being established. However, in 2003 we had Marshall-Kerr committee, which clearly highlighted that this act is not being implemented in letter and spirit. At the same time, there was a SOCHAM study which highlighted that around 1/3 of the drugs available in Indian market are of a spurious quality. They are fake drugs. So in this context, there is also a need to differentiate between hoarding and black marketing. So what is hoarding? Hoarding means that you stock the supplies of any commodity, considering that in the future the need of them may increase. Hoarding as such may not be illegal, but selling these drugs without license is certainly illegal. Second is black marketing. Black marketing generally refers to doing those economic activities and not paying taxes. In present case, it refers to having some drug and selling it at very high price. For example, Remdesivir is being sold in black market at astronomical prices. So all these things, there is a fine difference between them. So why this black marketing, this fake drugs is happening is the fake drugs also have one more reason why they are being promoted, is that we have a very two aspects. The consumers are very price sensitive, and even with regard to drugs, and even government is also price sensitive. It is something called L1 system. What L1 system of procurement is that those drug companies which will quote the least amount of price will be drugs from that company would be bought, but the quality is not taken into consideration into this L1 system. So all these problems are there, and we need to act on these problems so that proper quality drugs are available to the people. Next is with regard to the case for waiver in COVID vaccine related innovations. So this is India and South Africa's proposal at WTO, and it has been even supported by US informally. Our Germany is opposing it. So what is the proposal is that Article 31 of TRIPS of WTO should be diluted, and there should be a waiver for some duration. So what is TRIPS? Trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. So this is a minimum standards of intellectual property protection that a member of a WTO member country has to have in their national legislation, so that that and there some minimum protection to IPR is there. Right now what we are witnessing is that there are two debates, that some people are saying that IPR protection of this is moral, and some are saying that during pandemic this protection should not be there. In fact, it acts as a hindrance. So the argument for those people from this side are that if we have IPR protection, it will incentivize companies to invest in research and development, and will result in production of more and better quality drugs in the future. However, the evidence has shown that the innovation needs and the needs of public health can be balanced. So we have a case study that is given is the Cipla moment. So it is explained through a documentary, like a very nice documentary, Fire in the Blood. So what is the documentary is about, that in 2001 and 2, what happened was that these international multinational pharmaceutical companies, they used to sell antiretroviral drugs to African countries at very high prices, making these drugs unaffordable to most a major section of the population. So Cipla decided to launch the generic version at a very fraction of the cost, and because of this section of the Cipla, the access to antiretroviral drugs improved significantly, and this reduced the caseload of HIV. So these examples need to be promoted. At the same time, we should know that it is a necessary condition, not sufficient condition to tackle the present pandemic. So how this vaccine waiver will help? First of all, this IPR waiver, it will result in more countries producing, more companies producing vaccine at a cheaper cost. Second would be those generic vaccines that would be there, they would not require second round of clinical trials, because the original trials will be useful, and that data can be used. So in a way, the generic drugs, these vaccines will enter the market at a very rapid pace. Third aspect is that the litigation would be reduced. Right now, Pfizer is battling with the Medicine Sans Frontier over the pneumonia vaccine. So this is resulting in delay in supply of the vaccine in the market. So such kind of litigation in the future will not come in case of COVID vaccine if this step is taken. So with this, let's move to the next one. So this simply put question and answer series. So it settles the doubts of various people with regard to what should be the gap between first and second dose of the vaccine, what happened, which should the same vaccine should be used, or should we wait for the new the same type of vaccine to come in the market? What should we delay the second dose vaccine if we get the case? So all these problems, these doubts are being discussed. So first doubt that is discussed here, right here, is this: what should be the gap between the first and second dose? Initially it was 4 to 6 weeks, now it has been increased to 6 to 8 weeks. So the gap is increased. So there are some so we have to have we can have 6 to 8 weeks, but this is also not a hard and fast rule. In fact, CDSCO recommends a 90 days gap between first dose and the second dose. Why? So what are the benefits of a short interval, and what are the benefits of a long interval? So the long interval will produce lasting immunity. So the short interval will produce increased antibody production. So this will save the cases. New infection would be there, so antibody titer would be there. So the balance needs to be done. So 90 days can be there, and we can wait up to 6 months also. So even after that, we should take the vaccine as fast as possible whenever is available, because in that particular case the new case would not be there. Second aspect is there. For example, we have something called this kind of situation also emerging. A person takes a first dose and then he gets infected with the virus. Now then there is a natural immunity that comes. So this natural immunity, so this makes a case for delaying the second dose. So in that case we should delay the case. At the same time, the pointer is that even though there are cases of COVID happening after first dose also, second dose also, but these cases are milder, so we should take vaccines. Third aspect is that should we interchange the vaccine? So first say we have Covaxin, and now this is a reality in India. We do not have Covaxin and we have Covishield. Should we wait for Covaxin to come, or we should we take the Covishield? So answer to this is that CDC says that interchangeability in the COVID vaccines is not there. So this means that we should rather wait for the second dose and we should be getting vaccinated with the same type of same company of vaccine. So with this article comes to an, and now next is this Israel's Iron Dome. So right now what we are having, that fight is going on between Palestinian like Gaza authorities and Israel, and so multiple rockets are fired in the Israeli cities. So the origin of the dispute is over with regard to the displacement of 2 Palestinians from the East Jerusalem. So because of that the fight has intensified. So what happened is recently in social media, what video got viral where just like a dome, these rockets were bursting in the air, so they were not able to reach the cities and buildings. So here again the focus has been drawn to Israel's Iron Dome interceptor rockets. So what is this Iron Dome system? It is developed by Rafael company of the Israel, and it is a surface to air missile system. So from surface missiles will go and they will destroy any target. So it counters rockets, artilleries and mortars in the air, and it is a short range mechanism. So what it does is it has a radar system, highly effective radar system. It will detect these rockets, these artilleries, these mortars in the air, and then there is a system which is called BMC system, which would coordinate it with the rocket system. The rockets, these missiles that are used are the Tamir interceptor missiles. So these will neutralize these targets. So this is Iron Dome system. With regard to India, India is also procuring S-400 air defense system from Russia. So it is a long range system. So long range as surface to air missiles are used. So this is so because India is of continental size and Israel is a smaller size country. So this kind of a mechanism is used. At the same time, we are procuring NASAMS for protecting our cities like Delhi from air attack. So these air defense air defense rockets systems become important due to this. Next aspect is with regard to the Sachin Waze. He was recently dismissed without a departmental probe. So this is a part of paper 2. So governance related aspects. So in India we are having something called Article 311 of the Constitution, and it protects civil servants, and there are various provisions in this article. Constitution itself is providing this protection to civil servants. So it protects them from arbitrary action of the state. What are these protections? First protection is that civil servants should be given an opportunity to be heard in an inquiry. And second aspect, they cannot be dismissed or removed by any authority which is subordinate to the authority which appointed them. So these two protections are there. However, the same article are having exceptions. So these exceptions were used in order to dismiss Sachin Waze. So we know Sachin Waze was the police officer of Maharashtra government which was involved in the Ambani bomb scare case. So what are these exceptions? So right now article 3(1) clause 2 clause B is used. So if a competent authority submits in writing that there are not enough it is not possible to conduct a departmental inquiry, then this can be done. So this has been done. So what is a departmental inquiry? It is a formal procedure where inquiry officer goes and conduct an inquiry. It will go there, ask questions from the accused officer, civil servant. Then accused civil servant will provide evidences. He can also use a lawyer. So these after conducting the inquiry, it will recommend measures to the government, and government will take action to either punish or to spare the public servant. So these are protections. So now question comes, is there any mechanism of appeal against? Yes, there are appeal mechanism. In this part, the civil servants can go to state administrative tribunals, central administrative tribunal. At the same time, they can approach courts also in order to seek justice. So with this today's so next one more article is there. Low base effect pushes. So what is a base effect? In economy, this term is very much in use. What happens is, we can take an example that, for example, if there is a base of 100 and it rises to 120, so there is a rise of 20%. If the base is 1000 and it rises to say 1020, so absolute number increase is only 20 in both the cases. However, because the base in the 100 is there, so it would be certainly less than 20%. So because the base is lesser, so the growth would be more. So because of this low base effect, because of the pandemic, last year our economy contracted. Because of this contraction, the base of economy was very low, and now because of that the IIP has increased, and in fact the growth rate is at 22%. So this is a technical term. It can be used, this idea of base effect is used in inflation also, growth rates also, and other indices also. So with this we close our today's session. I hope you like these, you are liking these videos, and I would ask you to comment your doubts in the comments given the below the video. At the same time, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.